Jared Ginsburg, Director of Ticket Sales at Oilers Entertainment Group. Jared, thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you. We're very excited. So for people that don't know, you and I, Jared, we have a year-long mentorship relationship. And so it's interesting that I get to interview my mentors. So this is very exciting for me. Just want to put that into the universe.
Well, it's my pleasure. And this has been a long time coming. So happy to be here and support your podcast and website.
Cool. How do you end up working with the Kingston Frontenacs, the Ontario Hockey League, Jared?
Yeah, so I always knew that going into sports or going into university that I wanted to get into sports. That was a big piece for me. I'm from California, so I ended up coming to school in Canada at Queen's University. And I knew that I wanted to get involved by doing some sort of internships and getting experience in the ground level. And so really out of the blue, I had just called the Frontenac's office one day and asked for an internship opportunity. And it was a very small office at the time. There were like 3 full-time staff playing out of a very old arena built in the 1940s. And they said, we don't have any internships available. Thank you very much. And before they hung up, I said, can I just come down and at least volunteer or do something? I just want to get involved some way, shape, or form and do the proverbial sweep the floors, clean the bathrooms type of thing, whatever you need. And so they said, sure, come on down for Friday night's game. And so that was the start of it. And my duties when I first started there were hanging up sponsorship banners before the game, handing out lucky row of the game prizes, tearing down after games, a little bit of customer service. It was just sort of an odd jobs that needed to be done around the arena on game nights. And over time, though, as I progressed through Queens, I got more opportunity with the Frontenacs and ended up running the volunteer program. And we had about 15 volunteers from between Queen's University and St. Lawrence College that were coming in on game nights to assist. We had put together a new statistics program that was going in place. And then by my last year, I was actually running all the game operations for the team. So all the music, promotions, script writing, anything that had to do with the fan experience on a game night flowed through me, which is an incredible experience for someone still in university.
And Jared, you were with the Kingston Frontenacs in 2 different time periods. Can you please tell us your time with the Frontenacs in those 2 periods and then your most memorable learning experiences?
Yeah, sure. So with my first stint, it was obviously, like I was talking about, through Queens, and after I graduated, I did head back to California and got a job working in the ECHL. And so great experience to just kind of springboard me through my university career and then into my first real job. But I had gotten out of the sports industry for about 5 years working in a family business. And the pull of sports just kept nagging at me. And I had kept in touch with some folks still with the Frontenacs. And I went to see them when I was up visiting in Kingston over summers and things like that. And one day out of the blue, I got a call saying, hey, we'd love to get you back to Kingston in a marketing or ticket sales type of role. So it was a great opportunity for my wife and I to say, all right, let's make the cross-country move and head back to Canada. This is really where my heart's at. I want to be back in sports. I missed it. And so the opportunity presented itself, and it was a good one, but a big challenge that was there for us. The team had moved out of the old barn into a brand new K-Rock Center in downtown Kingston. It is a 5,300 seat, beautiful facility. But with a new building, they were still employing a sort of archaic marketing structure and ticket sales approach, which was fine, but it didn't even upgrade as attendance was lagging in the second year of the building. So that I had a big challenge at hand when I first got there in terms of building a ticket sales team, building a ticket sales program, which really wasn't super existent beyond the season seat product that we had available. So adding in things like partial plans, flex packages, group seating, group experiences, all the things that are so typical today just weren't existent there at the time. And it wasn't anyone's fault. There just wasn't someone directly focused on ticket sales. So that was the role that I had jumped into. And along with that came other pieces of the puzzle where I was responsible for our game day production and our game operations. So I felt really strongly, and still feel very strongly, that for folks that are coming to the game paying their hard-earned money, that yes, we can. I mean, we as the business folks can't affect what happens on the ice, but we can affect what happens off the ice. So we have to put on the best show possible, so that as people leave the building, they say, win or lose, it was worth my money. And so that's where sort of the ticket sales role flowed a bit into the game operations. Um, so over time, that we saw some really good wins. We built our team out and started building out our structure and strategies, and we saw some amazing results that came of that. So in my final year there in 2015, we had 2 sellouts, which was for us who had never sold out any games, to have 2 in one season was incredible, and our average attendance was up. Um, it was up almost like 50% since we'd started implementing our ticket sales program there. So to see those results was incredible. But I think probably the biggest learnings through a lot of the ups and downs to get to those results that we ended up seeing by the end of it. A lot of it for me, the biggest learning was being able to put some fundamental strategies in place. Things that we implemented in Kingston are things that I've taken with me to Edmonton and implemented those here. It's just on a grander scale, with more resources behind it and more people in the building, and a much bigger building. But I think that the key learnings really came out of the struggles of implementing something that didn't work, or trying something with results that we thought were going to be one way and came out a completely different way. And because of that, it wasn't just someone telling us, here's how you should sell tickets. It was us formulating our own roadmap to success. And I think those principles, like I said, we use here in Edmonton, we use in Bakersfield with our American Hockey League team. They don't change, I firmly believe, from team to team. It's just the way that you implement them is going to change from market to market.
And then, Jared, you get a call or an email from a recruiter at Oilers Entertainment Group, and they say, Jared, we might have an opportunity for you here. You go through the process, you end up getting a position with the Oilers Entertainment Group. How did that happen?
Yeah, it was truly out of the blue. And I'm a firm believer that hard work is going to generate the results that you want. I wasn't looking for an opportunity at the time. I was happy doing what we were doing, and I really felt in Kingston at that time that we were really on the cusp of hitting that next level of success. We were going to be seeing multiple sellouts, was going to be a regular thing for us. Getting there, and so for me, it really wasn't I'm out there looking for a new opportunity. But when the call came, it was definitely intriguing. A couple of the key things were obviously getting to work with both the Edmonton Oilers and the Edmonton Oil Kings. I'm a big junior hockey guy, so being able to still be involved with the junior hockey side of it was really compelling for me. And then the other side, the most important piece, was the new arena that was being built here. So I ended up starting with OEG in February, or I guess it would be March of 2015, and we had the new arena set for September of 2016. So I really got the experience at the old Rexall place for a full season, and then got to be a part of that transition process on the ticketing side from Rexall Place to Rogers Place, which was incredible. It's one of those pieces of your career that not everyone gets to do, opening up a new building and going through all the ins and outs of it. So incredibly rewarding as part of that. But I think that the real piece that hit home with me, aside from those selling features, was just the fact that, as I mentioned, those foundational strategic principles that I employed in Kingston were really what they were doing here in Edmonton. So there was a really good mesh on both ends. I felt that they were happy to bring me in because I spoke the language. I wasn't trying to come in saying we should be doing things this way, and they're saying we should do things this way. We were both pulling in the right direction, and I think there were wins on both sides for that partnership. So really happy to have been able to get the offer and to come out here and start producing some results.
In your 6 years, Jared, with the organization so far, what has changed? Is there anything that has evolved over time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots in the 6 years. I'd say probably the key one is with our staff. Our staff has grown significantly. I think when I started, we had account executives, 5 or 6 account executives, and we built that staff up. And pre-COVID, we were pushing close to 20. So we had seen, obviously the number of staff grow as our portfolio grew as well. But I'd say that one of the big things with our staff, and we're very people oriented. It's for us, it's about our staff. And I think one of the things when we first started, our management team kind of came from a bit of the old school of, you make 100 calls a day and that's how the job goes. And we don't accept anything less. And I don't believe that that's dead by any stretch of the imagination. I speak with a lot of teams that are still crushing phones and still making lots of sales as a result of it. I just think the way that we approach sales has changed significantly. So I think the phone is still our fundamental training piece. We train our staff on how to make phone calls with people and how to have face-to-face meetings. Because at the end of the day, if you can do those, then you can do any other sales mediums the right way, because you understand how to interact with people properly on a sales basis. But so I think really what's changed for us is with technology entering the world, the sales world pretty significantly. It's easy to get swept away and saying we have to have the latest and greatest technologies. I don't think we've adopted everything under the sun, but we have incorporated some pieces into our toolkit for our staff that have allowed them to be way more successful. And I think part of that has been also our mindset of changing a bit as well, saying it's not just about come in here and crank out calls. The staff we're getting, and we've probably always had them coming in, but the staff we're getting now are so creative and they've got these different ideas on how they want to approach sales from some of their experiences or just ways that they've been brought up that are very different than our traditional make 100 calls and that's your job. So we've really allowed staff to kind of pursue their own way of generating new business while still holding those fundamentals in place. So we still have call quotas and things like that, but we encourage people to really pursue the mediums that they're comfortable with. So we have some of our staff that love texting. So we have a texting platform for them that tracks everything in CRM that they can utilize. And that's a great way for them to stay connected with folks. We've got others that just want to crank out phone calls because that's what they're comfortable with. We've got others that hate making phone calls and just want to go see people in person. So, and everything under the sun. So we've really created a metric system to measure success, not just by how many calls you've made, but by a sort of amalgamation of all the different mediums that we have available and setting metrics on all of those for them to be successful. And I think any type of sales campaign today needs to be multifaceted for you to really cut through the clutter and be able to interact with the clients or the prospects that you're reaching out to.
We'll talk about sales in a few moments, but the two topics that you just touched upon was training and technology. I want to start with training. In terms of training people, Jared, as a leader in the industry, what does that process look like in terms of workshops or seminars or what have you?
Yeah, for us, training is the heart of our program. I think we're really of the mindset that we have a system that we feel works for us, and we're happy to share that. But for us, it has to be about baseline training and making sure that our staff understand what the expectations are from the beginning, and really giving them the tools to be successful, and not just throwing them to the wolves and saying, hey, here's a phone book and get on the phone, which is how my career started. So I vowed not to push that onto anyone that's underneath in my department. So I think for us on a training basis, everything starts with our annual boot camp. You had me saying workshop there. Our annual boot camp. And so we bring in a mixture of all of our new staff. We try and have them all start on the same day. So it's almost an onboarding and camaraderie building type of piece. And then we mix in our existing staff as well. So we use it for two purposes. The boot camp, it's a week long. And we really look at it from a couple ends of one, technical sales training. So we go back to the basics, all the fundamentals on how we make phone calls to groups, to individuals, B2B. We put a pretty big emphasis on practice throughout the week. So there's a lot of time of doing one-on-one role plays, doing them in front of the group. We put people in really uncomfortable situations so that when it comes time to actually making a phone call and you're in a high pressure situation, that you're not going to let your nerves get the best of you, and that you're always have that baseline of training that's sitting there with you. So beyond that, during the boot camp week, we put a lot of emphasis onto um, teamwork and building out our camaraderie within the group, to make sure that we're meshing as a team. We really look at sales for us as a not an it's an individual sport, but it's definitely a team sport, and so we want to see everyone achieve. That's more important for us, hitting our team target versus each individual getting there. We obviously want that, but that can't be the case. So we can build really strong bonds between the team members. We feel that that's going to be incredibly successful for us moving forward, in terms of holding each other accountable on a peer-to-peer basis, in terms of wanting to really dig in and work hard for the people that are next to you. Even if you're way ahead of target or way behind target, you're not going to give up because it's not about you, it's about the team. So we try and put those foundations in place during that week as well. Throughout the rest of the year, we do another boot camp in the spring to refresh on our B2B sales specifically, going into the B2B selling season. And then we'll do periodic training pieces that either go bi-weekly or monthly. The most important piece, though, for us that we're really disciplined on is our practice schedule. We make sure that we're getting lots of practice time for our staff. I think it's one of the most underutilized tools that's out there in sales. I think a lot of it is, here's the training, go get on the phone and sell. For us, we want to make sure that we're perfecting the way that we sell before we actually get on the phone. And it's very difficult to actually mimic a true phone call where you're calling a business, because you just never know what's going to happen on the other end of the line. But we try and throw each other for loops. We, again, put people in front of the group. We do it individually, but we just make sure it's repetitive so that you're not just about learning new skills. It's about repeating those skills and really building those. Sales to me is a muscle that needs to be continually toned to make sure that it's effective for you.
And Jared, in this kind of weird um, economic situation that we're in terms of an account executive, you know, doing these phone calls and then maybe sometimes getting a no from the other side during the phone call, what happens then? Like, what advice do you give to your account executives on kind of if they get a no?
First advice is get used to it, because there's a lot of no's in sales, and it's never easy. But I think if you can take a no and learn from the no, what you could have done better on that sales call, or are there things that maybe you need to practice more? I think that's really where the heart of it is that you're going to get lots of no's, and the best salespeople are the ones that are going to take that learning experience and translate that into actual results. So we've had our management team, they'll do live calls where they'll go into a private room and have the rep make calls on speakerphone. We don't have the technology, unfortunately, to listen on calls through our phone system, but we've done a couple of those through live calls where the manager can do some actual coaching on the call. We've done some like just cubicle visits. They'll sit with the staff member for half an hour, listen to the calls, and just give some pointers and things like that. So we're about constant feedback. I think that's a big one. Having those discussions about what it's not even that something went wrong on the call. Sometimes you just get a no, and that's just the way that it is. It wasn't the right fit for the customer, and that's okay too. But I think from every call, there's something that can be gleaned if you take the time to truly understand it, talk about it, and not just brush it off and continue to do the same thing over and over again, because that's really where you're going to get into a hole. And I think what they say is when you're in a hole, the worst thing you can do is keep digging. So we need to figure out a way out of it, and that's the best way is to talk about it, be open about it. And we feel very strongly that the relationships and bonds that we build with the team allows people to be vulnerable in that respect, to say, hey, I had a tough phone call. Can anyone give me some feedback on what I could do better, or to not be embarrassed in front of their manager if they get hung up on or things like that. It's just all part of it, and we're here to support everyone. And I think that's where the success is ultimately going to come from, is when people can let their guard down and truly learn from the tough experiences in sales.
That is some great insight. That's awesome. Now on to technology. How are technology platforms changing the process of ticket sales internally and externally?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest piece that I'd say is information. The ability for us to get information about potential prospects is way different than, like I mentioned, like having the phone book dropped on my desk and say start making some phone calls. That was literally the lead list that I had to work with at my first sales job. So now we're able to give a lot more qualified leads. And something that we're still working on internally is how we segment and target these leads even better to generate even more quality leads for our reps. We feel very strongly that the uh, it is still about volume of calls, but if we can make those calls more effective by giving them better leads to call on, that the reps are going to be way more efficient with their time and be able to spend more time and effort and energy with each of their prospects to really find the right fit versus, hey, I have to hit a call quota by the end of the day. So the technology is allowing us to work a lot smarter on that end in terms of lead segmentation and just understanding who our customer bases are. On the real hand to hand combat from a rep's end, I mean, like I mentioned earlier about the texting platform, or we've used video platforms. Um, we've got lots of different tools at our disposal that can help with our reps in terms of connecting with prospects in different ways than just using the phone or email than we were able to in the past. And I think I mentioned it before, but you really have to use multiple channels to be able to cut through the clutter, especially when you're talking to making a cold call or to someone that's been out to like an individual game buyer that's only been out to a couple games in the past. To be able to connect with them through multiple mediums is really the way that we're seeing the success. It's not just, hey, I made 18 phone calls to this person, they finally answered and told me no. We were able to text them and send them an email and saw that they opened the email and followed up with them with a phone call and then a video. Like all those sort of tools are able to be incredibly effective in terms of making the reps toolkit um, uh, bolstered, I guess, by some things that aren't just relying on them making phone calls.
Now, Jared, because you're the director of ticket sales, have to ask you about sales. Um, First off, what makes people successful in sales?
Um, the biggest thing is before you even get started is the right mindset. Um, and I know we've touched on it a bit, but understanding that you're going to get no's is part of it. So having the right mindset and really being resilient is a big piece that's going to be important for staff. Is that it can be a grind. You could be making 100 calls in a day and get told no 100 times. That happens. You could go out in 5 meetings and get told no. So I think if you have the right mindset to be optimistic that walking into every meeting or every phone call or every text that you send is going to lead to a sale is the first step that you need to have. But optimism can only take you so far, and you have to have the right skill set. And I think part of the skill set comes from being mindful of the fact that you don't know everything. Whether you're a first year rep or a 20-year rep, um, I think there's always things that can be learned and perfecting the process. And again, sales has changed so much in recent years with technology that the old school ways of doing things still work, but I think there's even more efficient ways that people can be effective. And so that really plays into that mindset of almost that humility that you've got to have as a rep. So like resiliency, humility, um, optimism. I think all those play into having the right mindset in sales. If you're in the right mindset, uh, you're just going to continually push forward. And I always mention to our staff is, what are you doing to move your business forward today? That's the big thing. It's not about how many sales you had today or how many tickets you've got queued up. That's all going to come as a result of you moving your business forward. So if you stop doing your prospecting for today because you're tired or because you got told no a lot of times, you're going to feel it the next day because you're going to be a bit behind. If you wait for 2 days or wait a week, you're going to feel it even more so. So those effects start combining and compounding on top of each other, which is really where that mindset comes to be aware of your situation. Just say, okay, had a tough morning. Let's shake it off, go for lunch, come back, and we're going to crush it this afternoon. And the folks that can shake it off and can truly put that out of their mind and come back in with that humility and optimism and really continue to push themselves to be better every day are the ones that are successful, whether they have a natural gift of sales gab like some folks do, or they don't. I think that anyone can be successful if you have the right mindset.
So, if you have the right mindset, Jared, then we go into the sales process. What does that look like? Because I've been so fascinated by our conversations about it, and I wanted for you to, if possible, to share it on the podcast.
Sure. So From our end, I think this is, I mean, going back to your question where you said what's changed, I think this is another one that's really changed for us in recent years. We really used to use a pretty scripted approach to all of our sales, saying this is how you say it, this is when you say it, and we 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 had great results from it. But what we found is, again, with the folks coming in that just want to be a little bit more creative, we really pushed it down to say, what are the fundamental pillars that you need to talk about in a conversation? And so when we break down a sales call, for us, it's really becomes just a needs analysis. So are you asking the right questions to truly understand their needs and to truly understand why those needs are important to them? So we're talking to an individual that comes out to games with their wife, for example. Um, it For us, it's important to understand why that's important to them. And I realize that, the easy part of saying I just want to go out for a night with my wife, that's great, but sometimes we're able to uncover some really good details that help us later in the sales call. So if we can understand their language and why it's important to them to come out to games or to purchase this package or whatever it is that we're selling, the needs analysis is just so important. So we push a lot on trying to ask the right questions, really purposeful questions that are going to give you some tangible uh, feedback that you can utilize. And at the end of the day, it's about taking those needs and prescribing the right package or whatever they're looking at that's going to fit their needs, and not just spouting off, here's what's on the website, and saying, oh, well, you're going to get a bobblehead with that, and you're going to get an autographed picture, and you're going to get this and this and this. Those things are important to some people, but based on if we ask really good, purposeful questions throughout the needs analysis, we're going to be able to speak their language and tell them, here's why it's important for you to buy this ticket package, because this is going to be a scheduled night out with your wife, and you can have the kids at home with the babysitter, and you guys know once a month you're coming out to an Oilers game, and you're going to be able to go out for dinner beforehand and really have that quality time, just the two of you, as you told us that was important for you on these game nights. And so now we're actually talking to them about something that resonates with them versus, hey, buy this package, you're going to save money, and you're going to get these gifts. Those are all great, and those will come into play, but we really want to hit on why it's important for them.
One last question, Jared, in terms of sales, the experience, selling that experience to a fan. Obviously, now there's no uh, fans in the stadiums, but hopefully within the next year there are. We hope. Um, Selling that experience to a fan, Jared, what does that look like in terms of the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is that's what we're selling is the experience. So we look at it as it's really the product of the product. The product that we're actually selling is a ticket, which is a piece of paper that's going to get you into the game. Well, not really a piece of paper anymore. It could be digital on your phone. But but really, we're selling you access to the game. Beyond that, we're trying to understand, again, going back to the example of the husband and wife having that time together because it's important for them to have some alone time. That's great and important. But for us, we try and ask those questions to truly understand what the experience means to them. And so, if that's on a a personal level, or if it's a business that's about hosting clients at games, great. Well, what type of environment are you looking for um, when you're hosting potential prospects? So the more that we can kind of dig in around those ends to see what type of experience they're looking for, the better we can cater our options and our prescriptions to them, saying like, hey, here's what you should be looking at is this, uh, a loge table, because you want that bit of privacy when you're dealing with prospects and be able to chat with them rather than sitting four in a row down an aisle and being like, hey, Joe, and trying to yell down the aisle. So the more that we understand that and the experience that they're looking for, the better. I think it really flips though when you're looking at a minor league level, is that it's really all about the experience. That's what people are coming out for. It's family friendly. The price is commensurate with the product that we're putting out there. So you're looking at $20 tickets, and I say this with regards to like the Oil Kings or our AHL team in Bakersfield, that people are coming out because they want to have fun, and win or lose, people are going to walk out of there saying this is a great experience. And that's really what we're selling at that minor league level, where it's a little bit less on the wins and losses like it is at the NHL level.
Awesome. Last question for you, Jared, to end off on a fun note. Have you had any amazing memories in your time in the sport industry, or just as a casual sports fan that you can share with us?
Yeah, a few. Gosh, I have to say one of the craziest moments had to be our opening night of Rogers Place. The first hockey game that was going to be played in the arena was the Oil Kings home opener in 2016. And we had sold the arena out, 18,000 seats, and we had barely just gotten occupancy of the building a couple days before that. So um, we were doing arena tours for our staff to show them how to do rundown for group experiences and which way to go, because we still weren't super familiar with all the back end tunnels and hallways and things like that. So much preparation going into this, and so many eyes on this beautiful community set up here, and 18,000 seats. And about a couple hours before the game was supposed to start, the league had asked for a camera to be put underneath the scoreboard. So the scoreboard was brought down, and put the camera underneath, and the scoreboard goes back up. But the lift that was used to put the camera in there, the wheels expand, and for some reason they could not contract the wheels to get off the ice. So we're sitting there, open the building, and we have literally this lift that's sitting on the ice because it can't contract the wheels to fit through the Zamboni door to get back off. So needless to say, it took a lot of folks some quick thinking and a lot of hard work to get that lift off the ice. The game started about, I think it was like 2 hours late, hour and a half late. But we started the game, sold out. It was a great game. Oil Kings win. And it was just one of those memories that as much as you plan and prep and get so ready for things to happen, that's the beauty of sports, is that there's always something that's going to go sideways. And that was one that no one predicted, but it was what it was, and got through it, and I have a great memory to share as a result.
And there you have it. Jared, I can't thank you enough for doing this. Thank you for everything that you've done for me, the mentorship, all the conversations we've had. You give back to a lot of people who are aspiring to be in the sport industry. And I think that's very awesome as well. And I wanted to mention it. So thank you. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, and happy to do it, Vince, and happy to be on the podcast today. Thank you.
Jared mentioned at the top of the show, we have a new website, www.sportchat.biz, articles, our podcast, video version as well. Check that out. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you.